This is the setup for the Preston Adult Jaw Thrusting Series mannequin. So you've got a couple of pieces. They come 4 to a bag. You have the body, you have the head, and there should be a set of lungs to go along with that device. I recommend that a set of batteries go along with this as well. I think it's 8 AA batteries. And there's a monitor in the back here that flips open, and you put 2 batteries in that help provide the system with some CPR feedback. So they're full CPR feedback. At this time, they're only on speed, depth, and that's really it for now. So later there may be an upgrade solution to it. But to be able to put these together, it's not real complicated. One of the things is, one of the recommendations is the lung bag itself should be kept in the package until the mannequins are ready to be lunged and then used. And then immediately when you are through with use of the mannequin and doing any type of ventilation with it, then it's de-lunged and disposed of appropriately. Okay? So to be able to use this particular piece of equipment, it's got 2 latches underneath the shoulders. There's a rubber body shell, and then there's a plastic shell. And a lot of times your people are going to pull away and pull the rubber up, but if they can just get their fingers underneath there, if you're going to do the setup, if you hook up in here, it'll unhook or unclip to be able to spin the body up. When you look on the inside, you got a chest plate. Under the chest plate, there's actually a clicker. So when you're pushing, it actually gives a click when you hit the right depth. That can be changed. Inside, you can see the light is now flashing. We've activated the monitoring system for speed. So now you know your battery's up and you're good to go. So if it's not coming up or fading, then it might be time to change the battery. So an extra set of batteries would be a good idea to have available. To put the head on this system, there are 2 receiver points here. Just literally sets on the prongs and allows the head to stay in position, and we can tilt in this position. To lung this mannequin up, we're sort of going to do a little lungectomy, as it were. And if you lay this on the chest, just so you can see where it's going to end up, we have a face shield here that will open over the chin and the nose. Here you have your trachea, and here you have the lung. The lung bag itself has 4 lines on it, and we're going to do 1/4 folds to create a tube. So you fold along the lines in 1/4 increments. So I would do 1, then fold again twice, fold again a 3rd time, and then finish with your final fold so that we have this little tube. From here, we want to make sure that we keep the trachea sort of in a straight position. And now we're going to do our little tonsillectomy here, where we're going to need to tilt the head back just slightly. So it helps if you do it from this position. So I would typically do it this way. I hold the neck down, tilt the head back, and I insert the folded tube in until I can see it come out the bottom here. When it exposes itself into that position, I want to make sure that I'm keeping the trachea in a straight line. It can get twisted sometimes, and then it won't ventilate properly. So as I pull this through, I'm trying to keep the trachea flat, pull it through nice and easy, double check that it didn't twist, and I pull enough until the lung protector around the face will sit flat on the face. I can unfold it. I unfold the lung so that it's flat. When you flare this open, you'll notice on the one wing, if you flatten it all the way out, there's a little hole in the plastic. And then if you look at the side of the head of the mannequin, it's got a little Frankenstein hook up there. So we're going to hook that hole into the prong and then do the same thing on the other side. Then just give the lung a little stroke there so that when you look at the mouthpiece here, it actually opens up a little bit. you can make sure that it hasn't folded over, that you're going to be able to get air in. A lot of times at this point, if we were using the pocket mask with a one-way valve, I would position the mask, put a breath in, and make sure that the lung actually inflates properly. But keeping in mind, one of the things about this is, head tilt, chin lift, jaw thrust are available on these mannequins. If you don't tilt the head, then the lung won't inflate properly. So if we lower the chest back in, and then we go ahead and attempt to ventilate,
In the car.
do one of these, or pocket mask with a valve. I'm not carrying one. So you want to make sure you test it. Make sure that the participant is able to get the chest to rise appropriately. So they would have to tilt the head, put the breath in, and you'll actually see the chest rise. Okay. For the compression solutions, right, hands, typical landmarking, same positions, hands in the center of the chest, other hand on top. You're going to push down firmly. And on these mannequins, to get an idea of the 2-inch mark, when you push down, you'll hear that little click. Right? If you shove too hard, right, I'm shoving into the floor, into the table, and I'm over compressing and going beyond 2.4 inches, or 5 to 6 centimeters. As soon as you give a push, the system starts up and it's flashing. And right now it's going red. You're not doing anything. Hey, where'd you go? Come back, do some CPR. So if I start my compressions and I'm going at the right speed, then you're going to notice that you get 2 lights. That means you're right on target, you're going at the right speed. If I go too fast, I start getting a yellow light. You're going too fast, slow down. And then if I go too slow, I'm only getting 1 green light out of that. So as an instructor, sometimes it'll help if you make sure that if you have your mannequins lined up, that the head is in the right position. So the light sequence, if you're on this side, you can actually see everybody's system. So there's that little caveat just to make sure they're doing the right thing. You could potentially see it, but don't forget, they're going to be blocking from this side. Okay? At the end of 30 pushes, tilt the head, give a breath. Right? Is this yours? Been using it?
Yeah, it hasn't been used.
Yeah.
Well, not this week anyway.
So obviously position appropriately. We'd love to see them get underneath the jaw for it, but in this case, what you're really trying to get them to accomplish is get a good seal, tilt the head, right? And so even through my cloth mask, I'm able to actually make that chest rise. So they can, and through procedure masks, it's a little bit easier. But again, I would recommend just doing some practice runs because they do get twisted. They don't always work the way they're supposed to, and make sure they can ventilate okay. So you're actually getting, speed out of this. You got some depth solution out of it. You can visualize and see that they put an appropriate amount of air in, and the chest rises. The other thing that's neat about this is we can use these on that suspected spinal. It's a jaw thrust mannequin. So if you look just where those little knobs were on the side, there's another little tab there. So if you place your thumbs on the cheekbones and hook your fingers under that jaw, the typical, however your technique is going to be demonstrated to your participants, if I get my fingers in here and keep the head in the neutral position, you can actually see the jaw comes up, right? So you can bring that up, and you can do that same thing when you're demonstrating the technique with a mask. Bring the jaw into the mask. Okay? So pretty good little thing. Yeah?
Now, when you do the jaw thrust on this, it will also open up that airway and it'll
Yeah, so if you've got somebody running the bag valve mask, you should actually be able to ventilate the mannequin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all of these things will open it. If you don't do that,
Yeah, we leave the head down on this mannequin. I got nothing there, Rox. Right? So I can attempt to do the jaw thrust. Right? Neat, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're pretty cool. They're pretty durable. Obviously a little bit bigger than humping around some Actars, right? But we're not using Actars anymore. To tie in with these nicely is the new Preston, and double check, I think got the ultralights in here. So these little defibrillators, they're great because they're easy to pack. You get 4 to a kit. Again, a rather unique thing. they take C-size batteries. So you gotta have some batteries for this, you gotta have some batteries for this, or just inside batteries. The pads do stick, and they have pressure sensors on them. So much like a real AED, once you turn it on, it's looking for those pressure sensors to be activated. Once you place them on the patient, then the system will actually move into its analyze mode. The programming information is here. You have a volume control button on the bottom. There's a little menu button. So if I turn this on, it'll tell me the sequence that I'm in and give me some other information. I typically like a sort of a shock, no shock solution. So first, the shock advised, they put a shock, and then they pushy, in the next round, yay, we got them back, we got a no shock call. But anytime there's a no shock call, obviously they need to check files. We reassess on any no shock call, right? So we turn the system on. Adult patient.
If the patient is a child, press the child button.
If it's a child, so I'm just going to stop this for a second. So on here, we could have the child diagrams are on the pads as well. You can activate the child button and it goes into child mode, right? When real systems are playing, they'd actually step down the joules and 775 joules or whatever it is. And we have a shock button under. So you have essentially 3 buttons, center being your on, your other button, child for child exercises or exercising off of the Preston child babies, and then you have your shock button and it will light up when it's time for a shock. Diagrams on here where the pads are supposed to go, diagrams on the pads where they're supposed to go. I made this mistake the other day. Take the shipping cord off so that you actually have some room to maneuver with. If we're looking at positioning of the AED, right? So the AED comes on scene, the rescuer is banging away on there. First thing we do is we turn it on and get the pads on the patient. So let's run that end to end. We turn it on, right? Great, I want to get them on.
Press the child button.
I look at my little diagrams. I
Remove
feel
clothing
pad.
from the patient's chest.
I place in position.
Remove packet. Press pads firmly on skin.
It's already recognized you've pressure sensed one.
Apply pads as shown
Place
in
my
the picture.
second pad.
Press pads firmly on skin.
The pressure points are about
Do
here.
not touch the patient.
And don't
Analyze
touch patient. So
heart
recognize the pads are now in contact with the patient. So I'm
Do
clear,
not
you're
touch
clear,
the
everybody's
patient.
clear.
rhythm.
The
Analyze
AED dance.
heart rhythm.
Right.
Shock and advise.
Shock advised.
Do not touch the patient. Everyone clear. Press the flashing shock button.
Volume button to turn it up so we can hear.
Press the shock.
Shock done.
Shock delivered.
Start your CPR.
Begin.
And it's got a
CPR.
metronome. You hear it? And it'll count for you.
10.
10. Come up with 20.
20.
They're gonna become dependent.
And
No longer have to learn how to count.
And no
And
remote
that's 30.
30. Give 2 breaths.
Build, give breath, or if the situation requires, they do continuous compressions, right? They would push straight through that. Relatively simple to operate.
10.
So I'm going to stop it again. I'm sure you figure out the rest of it, the way it's supposed to work. Does 2 minutes of coaching, and then goes back into analyze mode. And depending on the program solution,
Shock scenario 1.
so
Shock. Shock. Shock.
So I push the menu button, we know where we are, right? So in shock scenario 1, it's going to go shock, shock, shock. So if I push the button,
Shock scenario 1.
I push the arrow button,
Shock scenario 2. Shock. No shock. No shock.
Right.
Shock scenario 3. No shock. No shock. No shock.
ooh, poor guy.
Shock scenario 4. Shock. No shock. Shock.
Ooh, he went back.
Shock scenario 5. Shock. Shock. No shock.
Ooh, way to go, got him.
Shock scenario 1. Shock. Shock. Shock.
response.
It's
Okay.
like,
Right, back
And
up.
what's
So
the
you got
third button closest to you?
volume
Thank
on
you.
this side. So you can increase your volume a little bit so participants can hear what's going on.
So when you have like 10 people doing it at the same time, having the volume button.
So yeah, then I'll typically leverage just one running in the sort of, they can all have their own and they pretend to turn it on and they listen off of the one if you're trying to run that, because that does get a little freaky, right? Depending on your systems you're on. What, was I listening to them? Or was it, you know, and somebody always pushes late. And they're all over this, so. Anyways, nice, easy package, easy to carry, easy to maintain. I love that as soon as the pads make contact, then she launches into the assess mode. Just keep in mind, sometimes the pressure sensors get off just a little bit, so you just got to make sure, and it'll tell you, make sure they're pressed down firmly on the patient. I'm gonna guess that you ordered up some replacements. So they will get worn out. They're relatively easy to change. They have this little pin on them. You can just pop the pin out. It pushes out even with a pencil. You take the pad out. You slide the new one in, and then you pop the little black pin back in, and you're off to the races again. Right? So you'd want to make sure you kept a couple of spares with you as well for that. Any questions, Jeff?
In the packages, is there a little manual or quick reference?
There is
So
inside
there's a couple
pocket.
One in
we've
each
forgotten
case of
it.
4.
Troubleshooting,
So
yeah. Okay.
here, right, and the same with that one, and that really depends on how long they stay. You can go to the Preston site and get some of the information there for manuals on Preston.
I also created a quick reference to help you set up stuff like that. It's 2-pager.
Yeah, usually when I've seen it, I remember, but in case I don't.
Yeah, right. So getting the lungs right is like the most complicated thing you're gonna do. The rest of it sort of seems to run itself and giving you feedback. So it's up to you to provide your coaching to the individual. But the individual can actually see where they are in their own performance. So part of the goal of the new equipment was to help people improve their CPR solutions, right? A lot of times you're sort of visualizing off the actor, yeah, I think he's doing 2 inches, he must be doing 2 inches, right? He seems to be sweating like crazy, right? But maybe they're not really going fast enough, so you want to get a clock up, you get timers up and all that kind of stuff. So here you go, it's all built into the same space. The AD forces them into speed, right? Again, pretty easy. The other one you want to know is the Actar babies that are going to come along with these little infants. So again, nice little carry kit.
4 also in the bag?
Right.
2.
They also come with sensors themselves. These ones you'll have to activate. Those ones will activate as soon as you touch them. So you just push the button, and then if I'm doing my compressions at the right speed, too fast, right? And then it lights up on the diaper. Again, this thing it sort of pops out. I'll try and get that out for you in a minute. I don't have my little finger stuck here. Yeah, I'm gonna need a tool to do that. Yeah, just a flat pencil or something, right? So there are lungs to go with these. So it was part of what I needed to just sort of look in this kit and see if they were in.
Same, there's a side pocket.
So the pocket's on the bottom of the case of this one. On the adults, they're on this side. So if you're looking for them, lung set's a little bit the same way. Same 4-fold slot on the lung solution. Same feedback solutions. If you're going too fast, too slow, and you would do the same thing. Now to do these ones, you have to unhook under the shoulders. So there's a little tab there, and you just flip that up, and the upper body will fold back. So it's just the rubber. There's no plastic shell. Again, shows you the chest compression marker. So you want to be able to get them in the right, get that click going. So you're pushing it the right depth. And we would do the same fold solution for folds. Watch the trachea, make sure she doesn't bend away on you. Right? And don't forget, trying to put them in, you got to give a little head tilt. Right? So we're going to give that head a little bit of a tilt. We're going to feed that in until it comes at the bottom. Try and keep it in alignment. Stop at the same position where we don't go too far in. Flare open the protector shield. Same holes, same little Frankenstein knobs on either side there. Hook them up. And then just make sure we get the lung a little bit of a stretch out there to make sure you've opened up the airway. Slide the lung itself under the skin, roll the skin back on, hook the shoulders back up, and then you can go ahead and give her a little test. I'll use this if I don't have a feeds one on me, but so here we're having a little bit of issue with lung, so remove, pull down, and figure out what's going on. I don't like the flip upside down thing, but let's do this. So you always want to test your equipment, make sure it's going to work first.
Could it be twisted in the airway?
So something's wrong.
Might be
There we
twisted.
go. There's the money shot.
So there goes that tension pneumothorax, or just pneumothorax.
I'd like
Maybe
to
it's
see
right.
that.
So,
You might want to modify that video.
so
Well,
don't
We just won't use it for
overventilate the patient.
evaluation purposes.
So, yeah. So yeah, that's the kind of thing that is prevalent on a lot of these. Just when you're putting them in, if it's not sort of pulled down properly, always just test it before you get into it. It gets frustrating for the participant. It's not going. This equipment's terrible. So, and then make sure she feels properly. Anyways, good idea. Same things. Turn it on and do your little baby compressions. You get 2 lights on the diaper, right? You can do your thumb encircling, pad positions again from the, right? It even says this one goes on the front. Usually we don't have an adult and a child down at the same time, so let's get them out of the way.
Why do you put them back to back?
Yeah. So, just gonna go back here. So it helps the pressure sensor then get picked up because it's being pressed into the ground.
Adult patient. Press pads firmly on skin. Do not touch the patient. Analyzing
I like
heart
that. I like
rhythm.
that it launches. You don't have to use a remote to trigger forward.
Do not touch the patient. Analyze a child. Patient.
Don't
Analyze
put the baby
a heart rhythm. Shock advised.
Make sure.
All right,
Do
so
not touch the patient.
push and hold to shut down your system. Again, yeah, I mean, pretty solid. You can get to do your baby choking on these as well. They've got some weight to them as well.
Arms flopped.
And the heads
yeah, a
don't-
little.
The heads don't fall off either.
Yeah.
Give it time.
So good. Yeah. So, any questions on Preston series equipment? The only key thing is just give that a little test, make sure the airway is working properly. They sometimes get twisted internally, so you may have to just sort of back that up and reseat it. Good? Awesome. Here's Elvis. Right? He's got the awesome hair going.
Looks like Clifford to me.
Yes.
It's already mixed up.
Again, jaw thrust solutions available on this guy, head tilt. It comes with some nice clothing. So these are our full feedback solutions. This is a huge CPR mannequin put up by Lairdell. This is actually going to give you speed. Yeah, I'm going to get there. So you push down, right? You've got this, the click position. You can actually disengage the click off the bottom of the mannequin. But if we're hooked up appropriately, there is a Bluetooth sensor in this. And it's going to give you depth, recoil, speed, and appropriate ventilations. So when we go to ventilate this thing, you actually have an app. So it's a QCPR app. The individuals can actually patch into it, and you can tie into it here. The short story here is this can actually be done off of an iPad or a tablet. You can see multiple people going at the same time. And it will show you if they're pushing down, if they're coming up, if they're going at the right speed, and if the lungs ventilate. There is another app that goes with this, and if you're doing everything right, you put it up on the screen, and everybody's mannequin has a little ambulance. And if you're doing depth, recoil, speed, and ventilations properly, then your little ambulance races to the hospital faster than others. So then people get very competitive and they race those along. So it would be great to be able to show that, but in the absence of, I didn't realize that these didn't have their batteries or weren't set. But the idea here is you actually get a report on percentage accuracy of CPR, everything from compression only to full CPR. And the goal is not to start setting numbers for the patrollers and say, oh, you need to be 80%, right? We know we want an 80% compression fraction ratio, which is the professional responder space that we've got contact to the chest during the event time. But this is an opportunity for patrollers to really look at how am I actually doing with CPR? Get some real numbers, get some real visual along with this. You can see the sensor, it goes up and down. You can go to just look up QCPR, Laerdal Mannequin, and on their site they have a video, or go to our site, AED for Life, and the videos are there that can show you the little app and all that kind of stuff that's working. So very good tool to help improve the performance of the patroller. We're not going to start a whole, oh, you hit 79%, you're out of there, right? And there's only a few of these, and I understand they're designated to sort of rotate around. And you can have some little challenge days, you can have your little ambulance race, you can put somebody up and they can keep a little scorecard of how they're doing on one session, then try another session and see what their percentage accuracy is. It'll be amazing to some people where they actually sit with their CPR. Right, especially as far as their speed, their depth, and their recoil. This one will allow the use of the pocket mask for ventilations. The lung systems, this, again, I would probably keep these not using pocket masks. These would be the bag valve mask ventilation, tube rescue, or CPR. It's my personal opinion, just because the lungs are more expensive than the Preston lungs. Right? They have these little buttons here that lift up on the sides to pull the skin up, and you can see the lung system here is all tied in. You're going to have to unhook the ears and pull his face up. He's got a jaw thrust, so there's a little bit of heavier duty work to realign this. Yeah, you got to do some surgery here, right? So the information on how to put these together, they're not hard to do. But if we start blowing into these bags, right, so if you're just bag valve ventilating, that's cool. And it's a pretty good tool for tube rescue or CPR to see performance as well, or hands-only CPR, compression-only CPR to get their appropriate speed solutions. There's some stuff built into the chest to help move the Bluetooth sensor. The body itself, this actually flips up, and underneath is where the batteries are going to go. So you'd have to get this guy. Yeah. But these, I gotta bring this down a little bit. There we go. And see, no batteries. There. So the batteries are going to go in here. Okay. Again, just double A's. They have a little hook, rubber strap to keep the batteries in. And then these just fit back in, these spring systems. So we'll get them back in.
Does the app maintain a history?
The app you can pick up off the Play Store or the Apple Store.
No, it doesn't keep a history.
This is one of the things that frustrated me about it. When I bought the series myself, I wanted to try it out, so I spent the money on it just to see what they were like. And then retrofitted a bunch of mine. Because if you have Annies, so if you're out shopping eBay and you see Annies, then we can buy just the plate, and it is a lot less expensive than buying up the whole set, and we can retrofit a bunch of stuff. And then I went back to it and said, well, it's really cool. I got an independent percentage on the individuals, or I can see each individual. I can show you there's where you are. There wasn't an ability to print that as a report. So when I'm doing the professional agencies, one of the the chiefs would like to know, oh, how are my teams doing? Right? Mm-hmm. And I called them up and they said, oh yeah, you can do that. That'll be another $3,000. Right? And I was like, you guys.
Of course, it's a business.
So, again, really cool. I mean, this is what the new standard is though, right? We're going to be, as far as the American Heart Association, the American Red Cross, and the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Canada, starting February of 2021, all BLS programs need to have full feedback solutions. Right. So, you know, we take our lead, really Heart and Stroke sits on the Oakmore Community Piece for BLS, right? And we sort of really have our programs somewhat tied to the things that they're doing. So at least you're in a position, and that's why the Prestons do have an upgrade kit that I just checked. And I have, you know, 60 of these things. It's gonna cost me $6 grand to upgrade them, or I'm just gonna go buy new stuff to be able to stay in that space. But it's good. I mean, because we're not as subjective as an instructor looking at the individual doing their CPR on an ACTAR anymore, and are they really doing it right? It doesn't take pads properly and all that kind of stuff. So, and I think it would be a great idea if the coordinators, you know, when you get these in your facility, get them in your space, play with them. Try and see how you're doing in that space. Because if you're the one that's demonstrating CPR, you're the subject matter expert. That's what everybody's watching. And if you're doing stuff wrong, then they're going to do it too. So this will really help you tune in a higher performance level. And again, I don't recommend that we use this as a grading tool for them. It is a performance improvement tool. And then you can have little competitions and stuff like that. Later we can bring in X-series monitors and actually give you a full-up reading on percentage accuracy. And then maybe you got a competition in the patrol room. Who's got the best percentage accuracy? You know, who's got it on compression only? Who's got it on full CPR? Who's got it as team CPR? And you can post their little scores, right? So, pretty interesting. The app is relatively easy to use. No charge to download the apps off the App Store or Play Store. So once it's got batteries in, you just give it a couple pushes. Your system will recognize it. You can manage, I think, 12 mannequins at a time, everything. So if you've got a tablet, an iPad, that kind of thing, and if you've got air, right, you can actually push and everybody can see what's going on. And you can walk around to the individual and say, here you go, so you're not actually coming up enough. The other thing is there's an individual learner app, and the individual can hook up. So they can put it down and watch what they're doing. Okay. Yeah. Jaw thrust, all those things, head tilt, great. AD will work on there as well. There you go.
Wonderful.